Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Scale Up. Today we're going to be talking about the people that you surround yourself with and how you can get out of your own way.
If I'd applied a lot of the things we'd done previously, there would be dead bodies around. Absolutely. Wife, my mum, my dad, everybody's like going, that's crazy, you don't want to do that. No, that's ridiculous, mate.
Scale Up, the podcast for driving growth in your MSP, delivered by industry experts.
And today we are joined by Ian Luckett from the MSP Growth Hub. Ian.
Thanks very much for having me.
Welcome, Ian. For the people that are watching this that don't know your background and where you've come from, let's just talk a little bit about where you've been. What's your journey look
Brilliant.
like?
Well, thank you. And thank you very much for having me on. It's a great pleasure to be here today in this grand place. Yes, where did it all start? So I started my leadership journey many years ago, probably when I was about 25, in corporate, growing up, learning business development, learning finance, learning leadership. And then in 2017, I had a happy storm with my boss, and we went on my own little way and set up my own business, which was around coaching leadership people. And I thought that'd be much easier. So that was interesting. And I was, had this big vision, lots of excitement about what was going on, how we're going to do it. And then basically from there kind of moved from leadership into business and then into MSP, and kind of now today running the MSP Growth Hub with Stuart Warwick, great friend and business partner, helping over 50 MSPs now in the UK to help them with their non-technical things like the leadership and the team building and the plan building and that kind of thing. And great place, and really very grateful to be in this channel. I've never worked in an industry like this. If I'd applied a lot of the things we'd done previously in utilities in this industry, there would be dead bodies around. Absolutely, there's no problem about it. And it's it's not work. It's great fun.
Yeah, at least now people don't get electrocuted and die.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Well, there's always a chance. But I think what we're talking about today. At that time, that journey when I left corporate, and I never realised how, for those who've been in corporate, how long it takes you to decorporatalize yourself, from the official language, from the way that you've, it's 30 years, as in corporate. And that took a lot longer than I thought. But I instantly thought the reason I came out of that role was I was networking with people, and I was in this group called Escape the Rat Race, which was how to get out of a corporate job and run your own business, which in hindsight, funnily enough, doesn't exist anymore today. But the reason why is because it's a really hard thing to do. But I knew at that point I needed a new group of people around me. I knew how to build teams and the importance of vision and all of that kind of stuff that you've got, which was really important. But I needed some new friends now. And so I kind of went on a hunt to say, right, who are the people that are going to help me? To start with, I thought, don't need to spend any money on that. I'll do it myself. This is going to be much easier. So 6 months later, run out of money, and then thought, now we've got a problem. And that's an interesting thing, which we'll probably touch on later. It's about rock bottom. You can endure pain for quite a long time, but there'll come the point when you need to have that knee replaced, or you've run out of money and you've got to sell the car, or this has happened or that has happened. And we are constantly intrigued on how do we identify that sooner for people so they don't end up drowning in the water rather than just floating on the top, kind of paddling, if you know what I mean. So,
because the problem is, once you go under that level, I think there's a headspace problem.
100%.
You end up with so many things spinning around in your head, you're paralysed, and then that's when you go under, because
Absolutely.
you don't know where to go, because it's that shock and awe.
Yeah.
You're then paralysed, and it's like, now I do nothing.
Yeah. And I ended up in that space, not quite at the paralysis stage, but it wasn't far from it. And I got a bit of a lifeline. Someone said, do you want to do a bit of consultancy? Well, yeah, did that for a little while. And then came out of there and I go, right, we're not going to muck around with this anymore. We need to find somebody, and I need to pay somebody much more money than I ever would have imagined to help me learn how to do this stuff, right? And I found a coach. And, my wife, my mum, my dad, everybody's like going, that's crazy, you don't want to do that. No, that's ridiculous, man. It's like, yeah, but I don't know how to do this stuff, and I want to know. And even today you'll hear about some things I'm learning, like literally just yesterday, about some amazing things we're doing, where I'm just going, I don't know how to do this. Who do I know who can help? What's that team look like to help me build so that I can achieve this vision that I've got? So I did that, and this guy, he basically said, right, This is what you need to do. You need to pick a niche. Anybody heard that before? Yeah, maybe. And we ended up in IT, and then it ended up in the MSP space. But around there was people teaching me how to sell. I didn't know how to sell. Teaching me how to put products together, teaching me how to use social media and all of the branding stuff and all of the business stuff. And it was like, oh my God, this is hard work, but really enjoyable. But I needed to hang around. I knew that if I wanted to be successful, I needed a different team. If you want to learn how to play football, you don't go and see a driving instructor. And it's kind of that thing. No one teaches anybody this business stuff. I think the thing I remember, this is crazy, from school about business studies was how to write a check. Now, most of these people, probably yourself included, might not even know what that is, right? It's like, what was the point of that? That was the thing I learned in business, not about, we were just having a conversation a minute ago about how many people know their P&L. Well, most people are scared of their P&L because they don't know, but the bank balance is all right, so I'm okay. That's not the truth. And when you get confidence in that, then you can invest, in more things and people and things like that. So it's really, really exciting. So yeah, early on in that journey, but also, in corporate, I knew that I just wanted people to always want to work for me. A bit like the culture here. I'm blown away today. First time in Halo Land. The guy who greeted me at the door just showed me around the business. He didn't need to. It's not his job. He didn't have to do that, but he was so proud about what he did and how he shared, and it was just like the culture of this organisation is just off the scale. And that was very similar to what I had in corporate back in the day. So you've done an amazing job here, so well done for that, and keep it up. It's yours to lose, right? Yeah. That's the thing that's powerful now. So, but yeah, building that team is ever so important.
Yeah, I think it's important to have people around you at the place you want to be.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that aspirations and that understanding of the world of where you could get to. So that's what I did. I surrounded myself around people that had done very successful in business, people that I knew had done well in leadership, people that I knew would tell me the truth, people that I knew I could go and put my hands around them and then give me a cuddle and tell me it's okay. Yeah. And then for me, it was my wife. My wife was always the rock of, whenever I felt like, imposter syndrome, or this ain't gonna happen, or I just don't have the ability to do this, she'd be behind me going, no, it's happening, make it happen. Yeah. So I think having that team, that you've got those different heads and you know who they are, is really important, because it's a lonely place, running a business.
Yeah. And I think selecting the right people in the team is really important as well. So at that time, I was the budding, energetic entrepreneur. You are just clickbait for anybody who's selling build a book, sell this, do that. And all of a sudden, looking back on it now, I was surrounded by a lot of people who wanted to, but hadn't. So, COVID hit, and there was one guy there, and he said, great, look, I'll do your SEO for you. I'll get this business off the ground. Fantastic, great, 800 quid a month. MSPs don't click how to grow a business. It just doesn't work. But he took my money for a year because he was learning what he was doing. So, the one thing that I've learned is very carefully, if you're growing your MSP or you're doing anything, get the credibility of the people that you're listening to. There's nothing wrong with people learning as they're going, but make sure that if you're going to go and engage with somebody and they're going to go, I couldn't do what I'm doing now if I was 25. Because I hadn't been made redundant 8 times, sacked, walked out of 3 jobs, had this, had that, and had all these scars that I can now talk to and refer to, and also resonate with other people when they're going through that. So being careful on who just talk to people and just see what they've done. And if that's where you want to, I know you talk about it, be the smallest guy in the room, because then you're going to learn. You can only go one way up from there, is learning by those people.
I always have quite a natural reaction now that when someone tells me something that I'm interested in, I ask them, is that from experience or from a book?
Oh yeah, great, yeah.
Because if it's from a book, I'm probably going to take that a different way than you telling me that this is from experience of me doing this 10 times and it didn't work until I did this thing.
Yeah, and you've got to put things in, and you've got to fail, right? And if you don't fail, then you don't learn. And how we had that culture very much in corporate, which was about, you can make as many mistakes as you like, a bit like sales here, but if you don't learn from it, we can have a problem. But if you do learn from it, then we'll all learn from it, and then that will be a great thing. So getting those people around you, and even today, a phrase we use in the Growth Hub a lot is what got you here is not going to get you there. So when Stuart and I met up and we blended our businesses together and our clients together and we rebranded as the MSP Growth Hub, we had a team of people, I guess, indirect team of people who we relied on for kind of sales, the marketing and that kind of thing. And today that's a very different team because we've got systems and processes that are in place that have automated a lot of the things. We've got scalable process so that other people I could give you my phone right now and you could coach one of our clients on what his plans are, what his headline numbers look like and all of that kind of stuff. So, it's identifying, I think one of the tricks that I've learned is identifying when that moment is when you go, why is this not working like it did last year? Why am I feeling like I'm feeling? I think feelings are always a good stress indicator. Is when you sit there and go, why is this not working? Why are you not doing this or why are you not doing that? That's always a good thing to just get in the helicopter, get up to 30,000 feet, look back down and go, what's going on here? And I think that I've just literally recorded a podcast this week with one of our clients about how to slow down, how slowing down helps you scale faster because you just look around you and you're sort of seeing what's going on. So what got you here is not going to get you there. And having I think self-awareness, Gary Vee was the big thing for me in this many, many years ago. I heard him bleating on about it. And I said to my son, you're going to be really successful if you get this self-awareness thing working. We're still working on that thing. But, when I really understood what that meant, and, we were talking yesterday, Mark Matthews, big go-giver, massive, one of my first conversations I had with Mark was all about, well, I'm doing this, I'm helping, I'm giving and all of that. But I'm being vulnerable, being really, really vulnerable that's when the floodgates open up and the ideas and the people,
Yeah, I totally agree that, the people that got you here will not necessarily get you there. But it raises an interesting question. How do you find the right people and where do you find them?
That is an even better question, yeah. How do you find the right people? So I think the first thing is that you need to work out what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to get to. Our vision at the minute, we're at just over probably about 50 MSPs, is to get to 100 MSPs. How are we going to get to 100 MSPs? Well, there's various different ways of doing that with the marketing and the scalability, and it's really quite funny. Stuart keeps them, I get them. So it's kind of like we've got these really clear goals on what that looks like. And we sit down and there's only, there's two of us, there's 10 in the team, but there's two of us and we sit down and go, what do we need to achieve in the next, 60, 90 days to help us get to 100 people? Because we're all about, when we got together, it was about how can we have more fun, help more people, change more lives and have a bigger impact. When you sit there with an MSP who comes to you and is absolutely frightened to death that he's going to spend some money with you, it's not going to work, he's not going to change, his team are still going to hate him, his clients are going to leave and all of this stuff. And then a year later they say, I think you've transformed my life. And we don't use the T word very lightly. That's why we get up in the morning, right? So when you've got that vision behind you and that passion, then I think the first thing is that once you've got that, or before you put the goal in place, it's around, the vision, the mission, the values of the company, the organisation that you'd work with. And then that attracts your clients, and then that also attracts your people. And then when you've got people that all have the same values, which will be generally fed from the founders, then the clients turn up in that way. And then when the clients and the people get on, guess what? You can then step back and then you can work on more strategic tasks because they're getting on all right. They're great. Oh, we love so-and-so work. Oh, I love working with this client. We've got a team of 5 in the Philippines. They love talking to our clients over here, solving problems. And the buzz that they get, no one else out there gets that kind of interaction sort of thing. So finding the right people. Most of the people that you need, they're in your phone. They're in your network.
Sure.
And if they're not in your network, they're in your network's network. So whenever we're looking for some coaches or for a coach, and I said to Stuart, I said, who's in the phone book? Who do we know who can do this job? And just discreetly, we'd have a conversation when we're out. Hey, we're expanding. We need some more coaches to help with. Who do you know? Not do you know anyone? Because that's a no. If you say who do you know, it puts a different question in your head. And it's let me have a think. Who do I know who can help with that? They might be a good fit and they might not be a good fit. And we hear it all the time.
So the key thing I picked up there is having a plan.
Yeah.
You need to know where you're going to go and then have, because often I hear they know where they want to go.
Yep.
For whatever reason, it's always 5 million.
It's a tax thing, I'm
it's
sure.
It's always 5 million. I don't know why it's 5 million, but it's always 5 million. And then when you say, okay, break that down for me, they might say, oh, it's 300k this year.
Yeah.
But then ask anyone to break it down any more than that.
Yeah.
It's not on the on the fag packet.
No.
So then when they're trying to surround themselves with people, they don't really know what things they need to fix because they don't actually know where they're going.
No. And I did this. I went to the Managed Service Summit a couple of years ago, and I went there with one sole purpose, and it was to find out why every MSP at that show was not joining the Growth Hub. So I just went out to talk to people, and I was just having a nice, polite conversation. And I said, what is it you're trying to do? Trying to grow the business. What's getting in the way? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do next. Do I do marketing next? Do I need to recruit someone next? I need someone to show me what the way. I said, okay. Went to another MSP, same story. Talking to another MSP, same story. So they know what they want to do. And what we find an awful lot of the time in the Growth Hub, they have, everybody comes in, we do a real detailed onboarding, we build them a plan. And then what we've learned now is those plans that we probably gave an MSP 3 years ago are probably a quarter of the size today than they were then. Because we go, just do this. And they'll go, oh, brilliant, they've got everything they need. Oh, they're brilliant to do it. And then they'll sit there and go, oh, that's a bit big. So we've broken it down into so many small pieces because they don't know what to do next. And when we get people who are struggling and not making as much progress as we wanted to, we go, do you know what, if I turn this call off now and I said, I'm going to give you this hour back for you to get on with this, do you know what that task actually is, what you're going to do for the next 60 minutes to move that needle forwards? And the answer comes back, no. Right, that goal's too big. We know it links to this, but that goal's too big. Let's get rid of that goal. What is it that you can achieve? Have you got this in place? No, that's the first goal. Do that, ring me next week. And it's breaking it down. Some of our clients, they'll work a 10 target, 16-week plan, and you won't hear from them, and they'll just have amazing results. Some will I've got the 16 weeks. I said, just put 2 things on it. Can I put 2 things on it? So you put 1 thing on it if you want. But let's just do the 1 thing and then let's put another thing on it because everybody processes differently and they don't, no one teaches you this stuff in business school, right? No one's gone to university and said, hey, this is how to run a business. We're all building it on the way down. And I think when you've got that and kind of going back to your point of how do you find that team, it's looking in your network, look what you need to do and also being very open to say, look, we're going to work together today. In the future, we're not going to work together, either because you're going to be so amazing, you're going to get a job somewhere else that will suit you, or I'm not going to need you to help me in this team. And I think if you have that conversation and people understand that that's the way of the relationship, there's no such thing anymore as, you definitely won't remember this. I'll talk to Darren. The post office job's been around for 50 years, work as the post office will do it. That doesn't exist anymore. The speed that everything's moving, we were talking about it over lunch, it's not crazy, it's exciting. And there's the right people and the right time. So it's checking in with those people. But how do you find the right people? You find the right people by picking people with the right values, not necessarily skill sets around those values.
So I hear a lot though about how do you support the owner? Who's the right people in his network, etc. Let's turn this a bit inside. So typically the business owner starts the business. Even in Hello, I see it, you're wearing 100 hats.
Yeah.
You need to, at some point, you need to get rid of that 100th hat and start giving it to somebody else because either the business has gone bigger or you need to focus on something else. How do we identify that and how do we find the right people that are going to take that hat? Halo is growing rapidly.
Yeah.
How do you decide which part of your current role you're going to give to somebody else?
Yeah, well, there's I think it's true to say that it is an incredible thing when you find someone that does something better than you, does a certain job better than you. And I imagine business owners are quite reluctant to hire someone that is better than the business owner at doing a certain function. But really, that's what you need to be looking out for because what you want to achieve and something we've fostered quite successfully at Halo is we've built a really dynamic team. And there's plenty of things that I'm not very good at that other team members are far better than me at. And I'll be the first person to relinquish those duties and those responsibilities to those people. But it all starts with humility, I think. You don't want to hold on to work because if giving it away, you feel like you will lose a sense of importance or a sense of value. What you have to recognize is the value is actually increased by giving that work to someone that might do a more proficient job at it.
Yeah, because you feel that if you don't do it, it won't be as good.
No.
You know, or the other thing I hear a lot of is, if I don't do it, what value am I bringing to this business?
Yeah. There's a real imposter syndrome, and we talk about it in the MSP journey, and as you go up from kind of getting the business off the ground to like, oh my God, our value, our incomes have gone over our costs. Oh, we got a business. This is exciting, isn't it? And then it grows up from there, and then all of a sudden, as you say, the owner sort of goes, oh, I want to be scared of this. I remember. When I was in corporate, one of the bosses we had quite a lot of, when I was at what was then Cabletel, one of the bosses pulled me in the office and he said, your job is to put me out of a job. I can't do that. What about your family? What about your wife? He goes, I'm going nowhere unless you do my job. And I sat there and I thought, this bloke's mad. He's bonkers, and it was like, and I was in my late 20s at the time. It's like, what are you on about, And then all of a sudden, people are doing the team building training and the Belbin theory and all of this stuff. And it's great in corporate because it fixes a problem, because the consultants come in to tick a box. All goes in the drawer. Disc profile in the lot. Great. Oh, it's brilliant. Go home, tell your wife about it, forget about it. But that's the bit where the MSP can really benefit, because you talk about the humility, but also that self-awareness as well of right people in the right job. Now, when Stuart and I got together, we were both running pretty successful businesses. Stuart was about 3 years further in than I was, but he's steadier than I am, whereas I'm just got the attention of a gnat, and I joke all the time. He used to do the words and I did the pictures. It was simple as that, right? It was easy. But the reason that Stuart came towards me to say, do you reckon we could work together, was because he could slow me down and I could speed him up. We mentioned yesterday, we had a marketing campaign that I failed fast on Monday. But by Tuesday lunchtime, there was a new campaign with 15 emails and 10 social posts, and the videos were recorded and everything was all up and running, because we can implement super, super quick. Stuart couldn't do that. But the one thing that he could do is say, I think the next subject needs to be this, because it's what I'm hearing in the channel and it's what everybody needs fixing.
I think that's a super important point, how you need to find the right people to complement you.
Yeah.
How did you recognize that? After interacting with Stuart, what did it take for you to realise, hang on a minute, we actually complement each other, and working together, we're both going to be more successful?
It's a great question, because he literally did come on the call and he said, do you reckon we could work together? And I'm going, no. My head's going, no, I want all the money. And then he said, well, and the kind of conversation went on, he goes, well, what about £500,000 business? And it was like, now that'd be pretty cool. And it was like, okay. And I think the thing that I did was I just dropped the guard, and I realised that it's been hard work, right? Like running an MSP. It's professional service business, it's the same thing. And the thing I love is that our clients love to hear about our journey as well and what we're doing, because it's very similar to theirs. But so Stuart, we got on the phone, and it was like, he wanted to help me slow down and I wanted to help him kind of speed up. And we mentioned the other day, we literally failed fast on Monday with a marketing campaign, but within 24 hours, there's 20 emails and 8 social posts and everything was up and running again. And I think the thing that made me, that helped me to realise that we needed to change that, or I needed to change that, was by dropping the mask a bit and realising that if I wanted £500,000 business, that's going to be better than what I was doing at the minute. So that was quite an interesting place to be. And could we work well together? And what we did was we just went out and he said, the worst thing you can get, right, is 2 coaches working together, because you coach each other all the time. I know what you're trying to do to me. I know when you're saying, no, don't you try that little tactic on me sort of thing. So we have these conversations quite a bit. And we set a date, 6 months, and we said, this is either going to work or not. Let's see if we can make it work. And we went in a room and he said, what do you like about me? What do you not like about me? What do you want me to do more of? What do you want me to do less of? And it's like, Stuart, I can't answer the question. Same background the other way. What do you want me to do? And at the time, it was like, do you know what? I'd love you to teach me how to be an incredible coach the way you are, because you're so steady. And everything that was around that aura was like, that'd be really cool. And I sort of said to him, he sort of said, oh, I'd like you to help. So all of a sudden, you've got this expectation exchange of going, do you know what? If you could teach me to do that and I could teach you to, this is going to be really cool, isn't it, right? So we basically spent 6 months just trying to convince each other. I did wind him up. I did. He said yesterday that I didn't, but I did wind him up once. I triggered him, and it's the only time I've triggered him. Actually, bless him. And that's what we tried to do. We tried to convince ourselves this is the most stupidest thing that anybody could possibly do, and we'll go back to our old lives and carry on doing.
I'd explain that as what I was brought with was a definition called habit. So understanding what is your highest and best use. So rather than you spending lots of energy doing something that you don't actually like and that you're not that good at, and it takes you 10 times longer, spend your energy on the things that you enjoy and you're good at and you do it very well. And the other things need to go somewhere else. You know, so like for myself, written language and writing stuff down is not what I'm good at all. But I can talk to a camera, so I talk to a camera and I get somebody else that is very good at that delivering that element.
It's really hard though, isn't it? Because when you're so passionate about something and you love what you do, just like being in an MSP, is, you know, it's hard to let go of that branch and, you know, to say that good is actually good enough in this instance. And that's a real challenge. And we still struggle with it now. But when you go back to the goals and what we're trying to achieve, and then I think I mentioned it earlier, is when you go, you know, that's a moment to stop and go, why am I doing that? You know, am I getting caught up with all the tech and the setting the, you know, back in the day, I mean, our podcast, I think we're nearly at 250 episodes. It wasn't quite episode 1, but it was a podcast before that. I edited every podcast. It took me 4.5 hours. I took every and everything out, and it was like, this is crazy. I need to get someone to help me to do this. But I think unless you've got the vision on what your £1,000 task or your Habu task is, then you're always going to want to feel that you're valued, and you're going to want to feel that I'm going to keep this bit for a bit longer because I'm happy, because I think everyone thinks I'm adding value here. But what I've learned now, and my role has changed significantly in the business in the last 6 months, is that the speed the business has moved forward since I'm not coaching all the time, because we've got some coaches that are probably better than me. You know, say that on camera, but they're probably better than me. Good. I'm glad they are, because I can go over here and work out how we can create a new framework to help sales and marketing get better, or a framework to help a team get better results or anything like that. And if I can do that, that's much better than me. You know, my impact is going to be bigger here than it is by just coaching one person, which I love coaching the clients, and I never will. And they know when I'm around, just in case they're listening to this. I've still got my beady little ears and eyes. But Stuart's now got a coaching team that's scalable and that is performing and working really well with the clients. So when you know what that vision is and what your role is, because a lot of time they go, well, if I don't do this, what am I going to do? You know, that's a...
So you've basically done yourself out of a job.
Yeah.
That's what your aim is.
Yeah.
You want to get yourself to the point where you're done out of a job.
Yeah, because if I was running this business sitting from a sunbed, driving fast cars, doing whatever I wanted, but everyone was still getting results, everyone was still building...
I'm not sure a sunbed would work with that head.
No, well, I've got hats. My wife tells me now hats are my friend. No, I do crispen up, actually. It's not quite fair. My wife and my son, my eldest son, are of this annoying dark skin colour, and they just go brown like that, and me and Dan go just white. I think we go the other. I think we go the other way. We go more white than we were before, or more pale. But you know, it's looking at that impact, and we might touch on some of that other stuff that we're up to as well, which you need time for.
Yeah, because I mean, if you extrapolate, I think we've spoken about this before. If you think about where you want your business to be, you want it to be better, right? You want the trajectory to be up. And if you extrapolate from a business where you are the most valuable person, you immediately hit a ceiling. What you want is you want a business to grow beyond your ability to singularly maintain it. If you don't, then you are, and that's fine, but if you don't, you have to reserve yourself to the fact that your business is a lifestyle business, and it's only ever going to grow to a certain size. And if people genuinely want to hit that 5 million mark or higher, they have to realize that in order to do so, there are going to be people along the way that are better than them, you know, and it's about getting out of their way and also getting out of your own way.
Yeah, I remember early on, Stuart was very nervous about me meeting some of his clients, because it's like, you know, he's just got together with this Skippy Energizer bunny, and is this going to work out, because he's been very steady and everything like that. And I remember we was at a CompTIA dinner, and I don't know what happened, but I just I was really enjoying the wine, and he's sitting there with one of his clients going, oh my word. And I found this out afterwards. We got down on the train and he goes, my God, you held that together. And literally the next day, 2 of these other people signed up, and it was like, hang on a minute. That means it doesn't really matter how this kind of thing works. It's around these relationships that we're building and the values and all of this sort of thing. And it was quite funny. But he struggled as well to not get out of his own way, but this was the way that he coached for 10 years. And all of a sudden I'm in, and I've come in and I'm doing things a little bit differently. But that's where communication comes in, right? And it's like going, hey, do you know what, mate? I think we need to make sure, and I remember you saying this one day, we need to make sure we're dressed up one more than our clients. Okay, I get the point. You don't need to tell me again. I know exactly what that means. And I turned up with a T-shirt or something like that. And it was like, right, okay, that's your standards. I respect your standards. I respect what we're trying to do, and let's do that. And then it's like, come on, Stuart, let's just get this done. And it's like, but and we were talking this day about podcasts, and it was like in the early, no, I need it written down. No, you don't. Just come and do this. And it's having those relationships not only with your senior team, but your high level team, but also with the team below you, where our team now will say to us, I don't think that's right. I think we should do this. And I go, why is that? And they go, because of this. And I go, fantastic. Can you do that? Brilliant. Crack on.
Yeah. Some of the things you just talked about there for me remind myself about the personas.
Yeah.
So Larry Little's got a book called Make a Difference.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 animals, sort of tells you how you're going to interact with each other. Some people want all the pages wrote down and all the steps wrote down. Some people can just fly by the seat of the pants. Yeah. But knowing that is gold dust. Knowing how you both work and who's the person that does actions and enjoys doing actions and ticking them off, and who's the person that just thinks of the actions but is no good at executing them.
And we use Disc and other profiling tools and things like that. And the sad thing with that is people do it, they get all excited, as we said earlier, put it in the drawer and they leave it alone. I got caught out like loads of times in corporate by having a go at people because they were lazy, and they weren't lazy. Her mum had just died and she'd just come back from the funeral. I didn't know that. Why did I not know that? Because I didn't really care. And it was my bolshiness, the lack of self-awareness that kind of drove that ignorance, as it would do. And when you realise, if someone's underperforming, what's your expectation exchange with them? What have you asked them to do? What do they think they're here for? What do they think success looks like? A bit like your plan, right? Making sure that's right. Well, I don't really know. Well, that's your fault as a leader because you haven't given them clear instructions. If you went to a garage and you said change the exhaust and he changes the tyres and then he come out and the exhaust is still, you'd tear his head off. Well, you haven't told me what you wanted to do. You just said fix some stuff, and you can't do that. And when you adopt those awareness tools, I think it's probably the safest thing to call them, then you get to know that some people will absolutely thrive in a technical manner, but ask them to sit here and have a chat about a podcast, forget it, they'd hide in the fridge. And yet other people, like me and you, are quite happy to stand up, but you want me to sit down and write a 2,000 word blog, not happening. I'll read it out maybe if you're lucky, never work in a library, all of that, and understanding where their weaknesses are. So when you know that, you can then not build, you need the roles set out first. The key thing is you need the roles in the functions in the business to start with, and then you find the people that can operate those roles. Many times, you've seen this hundreds of times, I'm sure, you'll recruit and you'll go, oh, well, they're not very good at that, but I like them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give them a bit of marketing to do. And then all of a sudden you end up with this hybrid, bit of a tech, bit of marketing, they're doing a QBR, and then they leave. And then it's like, well, what do I replace them with? Is it a marketing person? Is it a technical person? Is it a salesperson? So you've got to stay within the realms of what the role looks like, but just understand who's going to be good at one role. When they struggle, just ask them what they're struggling with and why they're struggling.
So I'm feeling it's a lot, just of late actually. I think something I heard spun it on, where I think when you look at a functional area or you look at a role, as an entrepreneurial, what you should be doing is saying, right, okay, I want to now hire generalists. So in that area, I'm going to hire generalists, and that will be a lower cost, and they will come with a certain level of expertise. And then as the business grows and the need grows, now I need to hire a specialist. And that specialist will either come from growth within, like your journey within Halo. You've now become a specialist in a certain place, or you'll hire externally. Yeah. What you're actually doing is building generalists, then bringing specialists, then those specialists all almost become the next level of generalists. Then you hire your game again and bring in specialists again. Yeah. So every time you're building this pyramid where you're adding more specialists and splitting roles out into more specialists as the business develops and you fill those roles in the organisation.
Because not everybody wants to be a team leader. Not everybody can be a team leader. We run a future leaders program for our SDMs. And we say this isn't a business coach fix because someone who's got a problem. You have to apply for it, and they have to apply for it. And then if we think that you've both matched up with the same thing, then we'll let you into the program. Because not just because your senior best tech has worked for you for 20 years, he might absolutely be petrified at leading a service desk, and he wouldn't be any good at it anyway. And that's when, when they're involved in that culture and they realise that, Stuart was talking the other day, mentioned something the other day, and I kind of like balked a little bit. He doesn't know this, so again, that'd be quite funny, about bringing in, in the future, what about bringing in an MD? And it was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And it's like, well, could they help this business help more people quicker? And it's like, and if they could, and they could do a better job than me, I'm cool with that, But that took 4 seconds to alternate that change, that kind of thought in my head, rather than, 4 months, a few years ago.
What was that knee-jerk reaction? What was the knee-jerk reaction?
Threat. Yeah. It's threat, right? It's like, no, is that my job or is that your job? That's our job. That's what we're doing, right? And then it was like, yeah, but we don't want to be consumed by the business because we know that we can have more impact if we're not consumed by the business. So it was really interesting. And then I went, okay, that's interesting, And we're really good at solutioning stuff out and going, is that a good idea or is that not a good idea? And we'll either implement and get on with it, or we'll just kick it into the long grass very, very quickly. So I think what you guys are amazing at is being adaptive and being very reactive to what is the customer saying? Is this a good thing? And also I think, one thing the MSPs are really good at is a customer will get on the phone and they'll tear them out because things are not working well. So they go, right, well, this obviously doesn't work well in the whole business. Let's change it. And it's like, no, this is just one customer who's probably got a different profile to everybody else, who might be having a different experience. And they're, you don't need to change the whole business model just on that one thing. And it's very, I think when you're reactive, I think you've just got to really apply caution. And one thing that somebody told me once was, always get 3 points of triangulation. So if someone says something, you go, that's interesting. What do you think about it? I think that's a load of crap. Right, what do you think about it? I think that's it. Right, okay, now I've got 2 people that say yes and one person says maybe. Right, there's something in this. And then you kind of move into your problem solving and ratification a little bit deeper. But sure. Asking people is not a sign of weakness, just like, how would you do this? Or what's the best way to do that?
The way that I see it in my mind is you want to have a 3-dimensional picture of a problem.
Yep.
And from one perspective, you're only ever going to have 2 dimensions. So you need to call upon your peers, your team members, whoever it is, like your family, anyone to get a second opinion, to provide a different perspective, because that might just change the way that you view a problem. It might not even be a problem at all, but it's so important to a certain extent, not solely trust your own judgment. Even if you're convinced about something, you should always refer to 1 or 2 of the closest individuals in your life, in whether that is your business life or your personal life, and make a decision thereafter.
But that's again having those right people around you, and you know what roles they play. Yeah. So then you can go and ask the right person in your community the right questions.
Yeah, I think a really interesting thing around that is understanding what's in it for you. What do you want to do? And when Stuart and I got together, we were joined because there's a lot of special needs in our families. In both our families, in my family and Stuart's family. And one of the things he actually said, which was really quite funny, was like, if he's a cool dad to a son who's got all those issues, he's not a dickhead. You can't do that job and be a bit of a twonk. And the same thing and as soon as he told me about the autism and stuff like that in his family, it was like, okay, so when I say to you I've got to go because I've got an issue, there's not going to be a problem here. And it's like, why are we? So when we actually got sitting and we got chatting about it, I said, what are we doing this for? And I said, well, I need to build an independent living home for my son. And he goes, well, I want to do a business school for autistic people, but I haven't got any money at the minute. So if we build this thing up where we help a bucket load of people, how cool would that be that we could then go and do these other things? And we're going to do them together. And we are doing them together, by the way, which is like really, really exciting and a little bit quicker than my wife wants. But it's just like super, super exciting because of the people that we've hanging around with. And, you know, I did a talk about my vision to our clients to reinforce vision, personal vision and business vision. And as soon as I finished that talk and I was telling them about this home I wanted to build for Dan, one of them came up to me and goes, I've got a client who's got 12 homes like that in Reading. I'm going to connect you with him and he's going to teach you what to do. Goosebumps on my arm already, right? And I've had 2 conversations with this guy and it's moving at such a rate and it's under my nose. The whole thing's been under my nose all the time. But if I hadn't have said something to the team, they don't know what I'm doing. And the wonderful thing, what you were just saying at the moment about asking people, ask your clients, right? All of our clients want us to win. And I know that, and I'll be big-headed about that because they get on the phone to us and they say, if we could have that, that would help us overcome this problem with your vault. If we could do this, that would help. Hey, do you know what would be really helpful over here if you could help us? Can you do that? Can you do this? You know, and literally one of the things was the peer group for SDMs. We spun it up in 3 weeks. There's 18 people we're coaching now doing that, apart from the other group. That's because they said, we want to go faster, I need this. Can you help that? You know, and when you've got your clients offering advice on, I mean, there's lots of stuff that we've said no, and Stuart will look at me and he'll go, no, we're not doing that. And I'm going, go on, no, you know, because I'll build everything, right? A bit like you, Dan. We'll just be off doing. That's right, yeah. Let's go for it. It's like, no, that's not. Will that help us achieve our goal? No, it won't. Right, it's not on the plan for now, sort of thing.
You quoted a great saying there. You said, you know, what's in it? What's in it for you? I think there's another one there about actually, you know, what's in it for them. Like if you're asking someone to do a different role or the role that you was playing, you've got to be very clear about understanding what's in it for them. Yeah. Why would they?
I know that Paul Green didn't mention me in his podcast, but I'm going to mention him in this because he's such a great friend. But I remember something he said years ago, and he said, we get our team together at the beginning of the year, and we say, what is it you need this business to help you achieve this year? Right? It's not what do we need to do with the business? It was what does the business need to help you achieve? And he won't even remember saying that, but it was like, is it more time off with your family? Is it a certain level of income so that I can go on holiday and have it? Do I need to get a mortgage? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And I hope he still does it to the day. But I thought that was such a great, you know, this business is a vehicle. And we say this with our team in the Philippines. It's like, you know, and you know, this is going to be crazy, right? But some of our team in the Philippines have been there 7 years as remote teams. I said, why do you keep coming back? It's because it keeps changing. It's so innovative, it's exciting, you know. But you know, there is going to be a time when we're not going to work together, whatever that's going to happen. But you will walk out this door, skills to the hilt. You will know how to do this. You'll be, you know, you never have a problem earning money to provide for your family, and we will equip you with it. Now, how can that be a bad thing, right? You know, but it's when you've had that vision and you understand what that really looks like for the individual is really powerful.
So if I'm an MSP owner, sat watching this thinking, yeah, that's all great, but like, and what do I do next? So I'm this business owner that's all in my head. I'm doing 60 hours a week. I'm trying to build a team, but every time I do something, it doesn't work. What's the advice we would give to an MSP owner, 15, 20 users? How do we get out of the way?
I think the first thing is let's go all the way to exit, right? At some point or another in your life, you are not going to run your MSP. You'll either sell it, you'll get fed up with it and probably want to press the delete button. Someone will come, you know, whatever. And I think it's really important that we get to a point of what does that look like? You know, when I hear people say, oh, I can't wait to retire, I just like, oh, you know, just like shake. I was like, I'm never retiring. That's not going to happen. Why? Because I enjoy what I do and it doesn't feel like work. Now, I know not everybody's in that position, but I think it's really important, like you were sort of saying around your P&L, is what does exit look like? I want to put the kids through private school or university or whatever it is. I want to live on this house. Well, then we've got to reverse engineer that back. We did an event last December now, and everybody, you know, we're doing a lot of discovering. Everybody wanted to exit, but no one had a plan. And it was like, well, what are you focusing on every day? Because you're getting caught up. So, I think the first thing is what does a successful exit look like in terms of not material things, but it could be, it's like spending time with your family, or you might have a vocation or a thing you want to do. Get that really clear, because that's your driving force. I'll go home from here today after driving home, and I know there's a spreadsheet I need to do about this home that I need to put the numbers in, and why? Because it's part of the vision, right? So it's exciting when that happens. So
it's your legacy.
Yeah, that's right. And then coming back from that is who do I need in my team that's going to help me with that? Now, over the last 25 years, I've built up some great relationships with all of the social workers and support in Luton that's helped me with my son. Guess what? I'm calling in my favours, right?
Calling in the chips.
Who do I know who can help me understand this? Who do I know who can... And I was talking to someone about payroll. I said, I know you don't know this, but who do you know who can help me understand this mechanism of payment? Oh, Marie knows about that. Like, can you get her to ring me? Yeah. So build the team that's going to help you to do that. And if it is purely to get out of the MSP, you need to... One of the biggest things that's going to give you your biggest valuation is for you not being in that business every single day. You've got to get out. ONN, owner not needed. You've got to build a senior leadership team and get out your own way so that they can run that business without you. Because when you're standing in the car park and the new owner walks in, the only thing you're walking out with is your bag of cash, if that's the thing that's the thing that you want, because that's a big valuation, and making it autonomous as well. So build that team, get the vision, build that team around it. And then, as you say, day in, day out, set those goals on what it looks like, but make it a test, right? Because you can't fail a test, particularly if you set it up yourself. Until you get confidence in, your numbers. Because the worst thing is that you set a test to go, I need to sign up one new client a month. Well, after the first month, if you hasn't gone very well, it doesn't bloody work, does it? It's like marketing. That doesn't work. Marketing's a waste of time, doesn't it? Well, the next month, no, it doesn't work. Right, okay. And then a big project will come in and you'll get distracted and you'll go over here. But if you set up a test to say, well, if I do this, I'll get that. Make it easy. Oh, that was too easy. Great, make the target harder. Well, if the target's too hard, or the process or the achievement, the work involved doesn't work, then let's just work out which bit's not right. That's why I say do it as a test, because you can't fail it, right? And then when and I think everybody worries about failing. They all worry about, no, we're going to go for this many clients, and then they don't. And then they're worried that people are going to make you look silly. He goes, well, was this achievable? Was it achievable to onboard 400 clients a month? No, not at all. Why not? What does that number look like? Do we need to get to that number? Why do we need that number? So I think, getting really, and we were talking earlier, know your numbers, right? Because if you don't know your numbers, another thing to get you a good valuation is by knowing the numbers. And you can actually affect the multiplier that you will get, which will normally work in anywhere between £250,000 and £500,000 chunks, by improving the operations of your business without doing any sales and marketing. So that's talking to people, right people in the right roles, getting the processes in place, getting the right customers, without having to do any of the hard stuff. You've got it all in the grasp. And I think that's the really powerful thing about an MSP. And what to do now is work out what does that look like to build that value into your business. And it's all operations, efficiency, people.
It's really interesting that you say that, because that's exactly what I was taught. But I was taught it from a point of view, your brain works better figuring out faults when you put yourself in the success. So when you put yourself forward and say, what does the end look like, and work backwards, your brain works better than saying, how do I get forward? How do I do this step? It just mentally works better if you work backwards from it. So that's interesting that you do the same thing. So when we talk about getting out your way and putting people in positions, what I always see a lot of is like we talked about, there's a scareness of it, but they're scared because actually they don't know what good looks like, or have I built the solid background to this business? And I think you see it really powerful inside Halo and the way you've built this culture, and how Paul can just not be here. He's put MDs in place, and now he's not involved. What does that journey look like? Yeah,
we've spoken before about making clones of yourself, and Paul's done a really good job at making clones of himself in the form of Tim Bowers, and Tim Bowers is now imprinting on the staff, and it's really about it's about, like we've said, getting out of your own way and not holding on to responsibilities. Tim is incredibly good at, if someone comes up to him, often myself comes up to him with a problem that we're trying to solve in the business. Look, this isn't working very well. I think we need to improve this. We need to do A, B, and C. Tim will be the first person to say, excellent, tell me when it's done, and then it's on me. And all of a sudden it's like, oh damn, okay, so where do I even start now? But it's about removing the guardrails and allowing your team to fail. It's that 9 times out of 10 we don't fail, but it's being allowed to that gives us the agency to drive the business forwards.
I think that's a really interesting point there, though, because I see this in myself. Most technical IT business entrepreneurs have started this because they're helpful. They want to help. They want to fix things. The inertia is, I'm going to help as many people as I can, and I'm going to fix things in a technology world. So one of the things that was interesting there I just took from you was, I come to you with a problem. A typical MSP owner, the reaction would be they take that problem.
Yeah, I suffer from that myself. Yeah. I often, if someone comes up to me with a problem, I am guilty of saying, leave that with me, I'll sort that.
Yeah.
When actually it would be far more beneficial if I said, you muddle through it, and when you're absolutely stuck, I might give you half a sentence to help steer you in the right direction. But I think we're all guilty of it. I think the knee-jerk reaction is to not relinquish that work, because we've said this before on previous episodes. It almost, feeling busy satisfies something inside of us. Yeah. But being busy and being productive are two very different things. So it's about moving away from being busy, and being busy typically means taking on more things than you need to be taking on, dealing with responsibilities, dealing with BS that you don't need to be dealing with, and doing it just because you can and you feel like you should because you know the answers. That's what being busy looks like. You want to move away from that, and you want to move towards being productive, where you spend less time doing and more time thinking. I think we might have said this on a previous episode as well, but there's an interview where Jeff Bezos says that his job now at Amazon is to make 1 or 2 really important decisions. Yeah. He comes into a meeting and he provides very little input, but the input that he does provide is incredibly valuable. And he can only do that by being afforded the opportunity to think about these things.
How do you think that's happened inside Halo, though? Because you guys pride yourself on low structure, low going on, but then everybody is the same. Everybody talks the same. Everybody's at the same energy. Yeah. Everybody's doing this delegation very well, but you've never actually, I was taught how to do delegation. Here's 7 steps of delegation. Yeah. Here's how you do it. Here's the framework. Because I'm a process person as well. So that's I love it. Love that. But with you guys, if I said to you 7 steps of delegation, I don't know if you would.
There's only one step.
Yeah, right? Would you look at me and go, what's she talking about?
Absolutely. I have no idea what the 7 steps are.
But you do, because you nodded when I said it.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting question. I think there's 2 factors that lead towards what you see at Halo House today. The first is the hiring structure. Everyone is a like-minded individual, almost just by virtue of us all being the same age and similar demographic. That helps just naturally form friendships and bonds inside and outside of the workplace. And over time, with collaboration and blending in with people in your community, you start to share ideas and all change the way that you think and sort of almost form a hive mind. And the other point is down to Halo's incredible success, and the rate at which we're growing does not allow for people to not delegate. There's too much happening at any one point in time that we simply can't not delegate. So I've very quickly been forced into a position where I don't only delegate jobs, I delegate departments. And that's simply out of the sheer volume of things that are happening at Halo.
I would do it or sync.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And it's, there's every month there's the next thing that needs to happen. Whether it's, an improvement to our AI functionality, or Halo PSA Gravity's around the corner, or we're forming a new department. There's always just something happening. And I mean, I'm also guilty of chasing the next thing. But I think from a business owner's perspective, which I'm not, but from a business owner's perspective, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're laying seeds, right? You have an idea, you start something, you get it to a level of immaturity, you hand it over to someone else and they grow it. And then you go on to the next thing and you plant the next seed. And before you know it, you have a forest.
Yeah. You touched one thing there that you just glanced over, which was the biggest thing that changed that I've learned, is that when I was in corporate, someone said to me, you need to have time to think. I said, no, you don't. Just get on with one thing, get to the next thing, and let's just crack on, let's get moving. Absolute wrong. You know, when you sort of said, you just said then you need to have time to think, and you need to give people time to think and process. Everybody processes at different speeds. Everybody thinks at different levels and different frequencies. And when you start to have, you know, either environments in meetings or just conversations where you're thinking strategically, not, you know, everyone comes in and does a growth plan and the world's rosy and everything's great, and then they walk out the door and the blizzard hits them and everything's really busy and they go back into that world, right? But when you were in that room, you were calm, you were steady, this is what we wanted, this was the vision, this is what we've got to do, this is how we're going to do it. So why does it change when you walk out? Because you let life kind of get in your way, because you don't allow that time to think and to be measured and to be structured and everything like that. And you guys probably do it without knowing that you're doing it, probably just because of the culture of the organisation. But having that time to stop, you know, whether it be to go into a peer group, whether it to be go and talk to somebody for some help, get those 3 points of triangulation, whatever it is that you may need, but having that time to lower the frequency and think is just so underrated.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I find it really interesting here that some of the things I see them do, there are frameworks for it and people are taught how to do it, and these guys have never had that. You know, it's just almost like a secret ninja thing that happens within the business and everyone just follows suit. It's a bit like when I was in martial arts and everyone wants to be a black belt. You know, everyone now wants to be a Tim Bowers. Yeah. So they're trying to be another Tim Bowers in that whole journey because they want to be the black belt. And it's just that safety that's in the business, that everyone feels safe and feels happy to push the needle on even though they might fail.
Absolutely.
So we've had a great conversation there, guys. Let's summarise this for the audience. What are your key takeaways of that conversation?
For me, the key takeaway is be productive, don't be busy, and recognise the difference between the two.
Ian?
I think for me, it must be think of the end in mind. What's in it for me, whether it be in your business life or your personal life, whether it be your exit or whether it be your latter years, what do you want to do? Where do you want to make that impact? What does success look like for you? And be really brutally honest about it, and involve other people as well. Involve your family in it.
For me, it's all about the plan. Great saying, which is create a plan, work the plan will work.
Ian, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for tuning in for another episode of Scale Up. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of Scale Up, don't forget to like and subscribe. If there are any topics that you would like to see on a future episode of Scale Up, please leave a comment below.